Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name, congenial, convivial, and amiable as always. Number to call to join the conversation is 888-589-8840. Now, you're aware of this kerfuffle over in Kabul, Afghanistan, where the White House divulged the name of the CIA station chief. This guy is a spy. He's our chief spy. His identity is protected. His identity is covert. His identity is top secret. Why? Because if he's identified, if he's outed, he will be the target of an assassination attempt or multiple assassination attempts by the Taliban and by Al-Qaeda. It's a serious crime to reveal the identity of a CIA undercover operative. You can go to prison for this. You can ask Scooter Libby. Remember, Scooter Libby was the one that was blamed for outing Valerie Plame, and she wasn't covert. She wasn't undercover. She was riding a desk in Washington, D.C., and it wasn't even Scooter Libby that did it. It was Richard Armitage, who was working for Colin Powell, and because Colin Powell is a demigod in liberal circles, they weren't going to touch Richard Armitage, even though he was the one that was responsible for leaking her identity as somebody who worked for the CIA. But Scooter Libby was the one that they went after. It's completely trumped up. It's completely bogus. He wasn't guilty. The special prosecutor, Pat Fitzgerald, knew that he hadn't done it. He knew that it was Richard Armitage before that show trial began, and they wound up sending Scooter Libby off to prison. President Bush should have pardoned him, didn't do it. And that one's on Bush. That one's on President Bush. He should have pardoned Scooter Libby because he didn't do what he was accused of doing. But anyway, it just gives you the idea of how much trouble you can get into if even people think you did it, let alone whether you actually did it. And now the White House itself has outed the identity of the CIA station chief in Kabul. And back in George Bush's day, people went to prison for that. So the question naturally is, who's going to go to prison over this? Who in the White House? And this is Jay Carney's outfit responsible for this. This is the press office responsible for releasing his name. Is Jay Carney going to go to prison? Is the staff member that released his name, is that staff member going to go to prison? Now, the Obama administration has said they're already conducting an investigation, and I'll tell you why. They want to try to sweep this under the rug. They know how bad this is. I mean, this is really a treasonous act. Now, maybe it's accidental. In fact, I'm quite sure it was, which is even worse in some ways for the Obama administration because it's a further reminder of just how inept and incompetent this is. The gang that couldn't shoot straight. This is a life-endangering mistake. This guy's got a family. He's going to have to leave Kabul. His family's now at risk. With his name out there, you can go on Facebook and you can Google him. You can Google his wife, and you can find out information about his family. This is an inordinately dangerous and risky thing that has happened. That guy's life is now at risk because of what Jay Carney's office did in revealing his identity. So somebody ought to go to prison for this, but the White House is on it. They're going to get to the bottom of it. They're going to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And all of that is in an effort to avoid too much outside scrutiny because they know how bad this thing is going to make them look. And in fact, what happened, it was a reporter for the Washington Post that actually realized what was going on. He got the list and said, look, I don't think this guy ought to be on here. The White House press office had seen it twice. Jay Carney's people had seen it twice. They hadn't noticed it. They're so inept, they hadn't caught on to it. They did it in the first place, missed two chances at catching the problem. Finally, the Washington Post reporter brings it to their attention, and they say, whoops, that guy's name shouldn't be on the list. And so they redid the list and sent it out again. But 6,000 members of the media had already gotten the original list. It was too late. You can't unring that bell. Now, here is clip number one. This is Jonathan Martin, New York Times. And, it's interesting to watch the way the media covers for President Obama. And the way they do this, and you'll hear it in this clip, is they create the impression that nothing is ever President Obama's fault. That all of these terrible, mysterious, horrible things just keep happening to our poor, innocent, messianic prince and keep gumming up his plans to bring utopia to earth. So here is Jonathan Martin, New York Times, talking with John King of CNN. John King speaking first. Let's listen.
Valerie Plame, who knows something about being outed back in the prior administration, she tweeted this yesterday. Astonishing. White House mistakenly identifies CIA chief in Afghanistan. She didn't make a partisan statement there, but she's essentially trying to say her Keystone Cops element to this. Is this just a second-term mistake? Is it some tired military person in Afghanistan? Is it just...
It does strike me as when it rains, it pours, that these guys are just going through a rough patch. And even a sort of feel-good event to go and support the troops, they can't even do that without something going wrong.
So that's poor President Obama. Things just keep going wrong for this poor, pure soul. When it rains, it pours. Now, Jeff played some sound bites from Michelle Obama. She's out there hacking and flacking for her school lunch bill, which is costing school districts millions of dollars because students aren't buying their lunches because it tastes like sheetrock. They don't want to eat it. And when they are forced to buy it, they throw it away. So school districts are going in the red. They're asking for waivers. Can we please? Is there any way we can get out of these goofball nutritional regulations? But she can count on Carol Costello at CNN. Carol Costello is the one that said after interviewing me that she was a proud card-carrying member of the gay Gestapo. And Carol Costello, apparently, based on this soundbite, has some difficulty understanding who Michelle Obama is and who she is not. Let's listen.
See, it's been made fun of, but some people say it's been quite effective. Well, now one of the First Lady's major health initiatives measure backed by Republican lawmakers that would allow schools to opt out of federal mandates requiring school cafeterias to provide healthier options.
We can all agree that in the wealthiest nation on earth, all children should have the basic nutrition they need to learn and grow and to pursue their dreams. Nothing is more important than the health and well-being of our children, nothing. And our hopes for their future should drive every single decision that we make.
That was Mrs. Obama back in 2010 when she signed the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act into law. Well, now some members of the food industry want to roll back that initiative and loosen requirements to cut costs.
I don't know if you caught that, but she said back in 2010, when Michelle Obama signed the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act into law. So now Michelle Obama has received a battlefield promotion, and just like her husband, can actually sign things into law. And remember, I opened the program with this, how schools want to get as far away from this goofball nutritional plan as they possibly can. Kids aren't eating it. They're not buying their lunches. They're throwing the food away. They're hungry. They're going to the snack machines. They're bringing meals from home, so that's costing the schools money. So they're freaking out over this. They're going broke cooperating with Michelle Obama's plans. And meanwhile, her kids at their private school, they're not stuck with Michelle Obama's nutritional school lunch plan. They're eating chicken coconut soup. They're eating local butternut squash soup. They're eating crusted tilapia. They are eating meatball subs. They're eating barbecue wings. They're eating ice cream. They're eating chicken curry, eating deviled egg salad, and the intriguing chef's choice for everybody else, let them eat cake, apparently is the rule of the day. Let's go to the phones and grab a call from Doug, Clearwater, Florida. Doug in Clearwater, Florida, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, thank you for having me. I've been listening to, I'm a new listener, really enjoyed the show.
Thank you.
One of your last callers, I believe it was Isabel, she asked a question about sending murderers and rapists to God.
Yeah, through capital punishment, because both
Correct.
of those, murder and rape, were both capital crimes under the ancient code of Israel.
Okay. Well, what I've noticed, and I'm not speaking out of school. I do know some of the statistics. I would bet apples with oranges that, there's so many. I think the biggest, and I'm not advocating this is right, but I'm just saying that that with all the sensationalism of the rapists and the sex offenders, my question is this, is a majority of these people that are committing these crimes were victims themselves, and we seem to put a Band-Aid over it and just mark them, no forgiveness, and, you know, the recidivism rate is the lowest of all mental health. When, I mean, the last time I checked, Christ died for all of us, and to put, I mean, it bothers me that, in fact, that you know, it's happened in my family. You know, I've just found out a story with my family, and no one knew, and it made so much sense, and it was very painful to hear these stories, but they're hidden secrets. It's like 7 out of 10 women are molested by family members or close friends that are never reported, and I believe that you know, instead of the people speaking up and getting to the root of the problem, they pass these laws because it hits home with them, and I understand that. But, you know, how can, my point is, how can we go, I mean, there was hatred towards people of color, then there was hatred towards homosexuals, and then now we're going more secular and more things are accepted, but it seems like we always have to find someone to ostracize, and that just bothers me, because as a Christian, we're supposed to help, forgive, and understand. Now, granted, I understand there are some people that do need to be locked away, that do impose grave danger, but for a majority, it's not like that. And I think it's sad because, like I said, I know people. I know that, you know, they've straightened their life out. They've gotten into recovery. They understand, you know, that they were victims themselves. But yet they're put on these websites. Their family, their children are ostracized because their father this or their mother this, and it's just it's so sad to see people torn apart. And it's not because they're a mistake. It's just they made a mistake. Mm-hmm. And I just don't understand, as a Christian nation, how we can hold people up instead of and there's no help. If people do have these issues they're dealing with, they can't call to get help, because right away they'll be arrested and put away and confined, and, you know, and that just bothers me of the judicial system. And as a society, I think we have the worst out of all the countries on this, and I just...
I'm out of time, Doug. We're up against a hard break here. Can you hang on over the break? 2 minutes, Focal Point AFR Talk.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, and we are